She wasn't supposed to look at me like that. Not in that room, not with her voice still low from the meeting, not while the others were leaving and I was still pretending to gather my notes. She stood by the window, arms folded, watching the rain collect in small rivers on the glass. The kind of silence that makes your pulse louder than it should be hung between us. Her name was Evelyn, but everyone called her ma'am. It fit her too well. The word carried weight when she said it, like she'd earned every syllable. I'd started using it out of habit, respect maybe. But lately it had begun to feel like a wall. She turned then, slowly, as if she already knew I hadn't really been working. Her eyes were a calm gray, not cold, just steady. They lingered on me a second too long. "You're quiet today," she said. I almost laughed. She always said that, as if I ever wasn't. "Just thinking," I replied, closing my notebook though I hadn't written a thing. "About what?" The question was simple, but it had weight. I shrugged, trying to keep it light. "About how rain makes everything look softer." Her mouth curved, almost a smile, almost not. "Or maybe it just makes you pay attention." The way she said it, soft, deliberate, made it sound like she wasn't talking about the weather at all. She stepped closer, her heels clicking softly on the floor, and suddenly I could smell her perfume, something warm, familiar, with the faintest trace of vanilla and coffee. For a moment neither of us spoke. She leaned against the edge of the table beside me, her hand brushing mine as she steadied herself. It wasn't intentional, at least, it didn't look that way, but the touch stayed between us like static. I swallowed, but my voice didn't come. She noticed. "You always look like you're holding something back," she said. "Maybe I am." Her brow lifted slightly. "And what would that be?" I should have said nothing. I should have stepped back, made a joke, anything to release the tension. But instead I looked at her hand, graceful, deliberate, and said quietly, "Maybe it's what I shouldn't be thinking." That was the first time she didn't look away. Her breath caught, so small it could have been missed, and for a second the air between us shifted. The rain kept falling, steady and rhythmic, like it was waiting for one of us to move. She tilted her head, her voice lower now. "Careful. Some thoughts aren't meant to be said out loud." "I know." Her eyes searched mine, as if looking for the thing I wasn't saying. "Then why do I feel like you already did?" My heart was a drum. She reached past me then, picking up her coat from the chair, but her fingers brushed my shoulder, slow, almost accidental. "I'll see you tomorrow," she said, barely above a whisper. "Yes, ma'am." She stopped, turned halfway back. And then, with a look that undid every rule I thought I understood, she said, "Say my name like you mean it." Before I could answer, the door opened behind us. Someone called her name from the hall, too bright, too sudden. She straightened, the moment gone as quickly as it had come. But as she walked away, her perfume lingered. And I stood there, still hearing her voice, soft as the rain. "Say my name." Variant, standard, title, Part 2, The Boundary Line. ID, 93217. I didn't sleep much after that night. Every time I closed my eyes I heard her voice again, "Say my name like you mean it," and the way she looked at me right before the door opened. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was something dangerous, something that had no place between us. The next morning, she was already in the office when I arrived. Sunlight fell across her desk, catching the silver in her hair. She looked composed, unreadable, but her hand tightened slightly around her pen when she saw me. "Morning," I said. My voice cracked on the word. She nodded. "You're early." "So are you." A flicker of amusement crossed her face, then vanished. "Deadlines don't care how much coffee I need first." We both smiled, small, nervous smiles, like two people pretending yesterday hadn't happened. But it had. Every second of it. And I couldn't stop replaying it. She stood, gathering a folder. "Could you help me with the reports? It'll be faster if we go through them together." "Of course." I followed her into the smaller conference room. It was quiet except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. The table between us wasn't much of a barrier, just polished wood reflecting every glance we tried to hide. As she leaned forward to point at a line of text, her sleeve brushed my hand. A simple touch, but it stayed there longer than it should have. I felt her hesitate, the smallest pause, before she drew her hand back. "Sorry," she said softly. "It's okay." Her eyes lifted to mine, and for the first time that morning, I saw the same conflict I felt, the pull and the restraint, the want and the guilt. "I shouldn't," she began, then stopped. "You remind me of someone I used to know." "Someone you cared about?" I asked. She exhaled, almost a laugh but not quite. "Someone who cared more than they should have." There it was, the weight in her voice, the edge of regret that clung to her. I wanted to ask more, but I didn't. Instead, I said quietly, "Maybe caring isn't always a mistake." Her lips parted slightly, as if she might answer, but she didn't. The air between us thickened, too full of things that didn't belong in words. She reached for the next report, her fingers brushing mine again, slower this time. Deliberate. "You're young," she murmured. "You don't know how complicated people get." "I'm starting to," I said. Her hand stayed on the paper, motionless. The sunlight caught the gold ring she still wore, simple, unpolished, maybe from a life that no longer fit her. I noticed her thumb moving against it, almost nervously. When she finally looked up, her voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it. "You should be careful with people who've already learned how to leave." "I'm not planning on leaving," I said. Something flickered in her expression, not quite fear, not quite longing. Just truth, raw and unguarded. And then, for no reason at all, she reached out and rested her hand lightly on my forearm. A simple touch. But it silenced everything else. Neither of us moved. Neither of us breathed. The door handle turned outside, footsteps, voices. She withdrew her hand just in time. But when she spoke again, her tone had changed. "Let's finish this later," she said. I nodded, though my pulse hadn't slowed since she touched me. And as she walked past, close enough for her perfume to find me again, I heard her whisper, not loud enough for anyone else, but enough for me. "This can't keep happening." Which, of course, only meant that it would. The next few days blurred into routine, or the illusion of it. We spoke less, but the silence had changed. Every glance, every passing word held an echo of that moment we weren't supposed to remember. It was Friday evening when it happened again. Most of the office had already left. The lights were dimmed except for the soft pool of amber on her desk. I stopped by to drop off a file, but she looked up before I could speak. "You're still here," she said. "So are you." Her lips twitched. "I could say I'm waiting for an email, but that'd be a lie. So why are you?" Her eyes lifted from the papers, slow and deliberate. "Maybe for the same reason you are." The room went still. I set the file down, careful not to look directly at her. "People will start talking if they see me staying late too often." "They already talk?" she said softly, almost to herself. That startled me, not the words, but the quiet acceptance in them. She wasn't naive about what people whispered. The age gap. The impropriety. The way she occasionally brushed a hand through her hair when I walked in. "You don't care?" I asked. She hesitated, then looked away. "I care more than I should. That's the problem." The clock ticked somewhere behind us, too loud in the quiet. I stepped closer, not enough to touch, just enough to see the pulse in her neck, the way her breath caught when I spoke. "You always pull away right when it matters," I said. "Because someone has to." The words stung more than I expected. "You think I don't understand the risk?" "You're young," she said again, but softer this time, as if apologizing. "You still believe wanting something makes it right." "I just believe it makes it real." She looked at me then, really looked, and something in her expression fractured, like a surface that couldn't hold the weight anymore. She stood slowly, coming around the desk until we were standing inches apart. I could smell the faint trace of her perfume again, something warm that felt like memory. She reached out, fingers grazing the edge of my tie, straightening it without meeting my eyes. Evelyn! I said her name carefully, the way she asked me to. Her hand froze. The sound of it between us was too much, too intimate, too dangerous. You shouldn't say it like that, she whispered. Then tell me how I should. Her fingers slipped, brushing the front of my shirt, and for one dizzying second, the space between us disappeared. I felt her breath on my lips, close, trembling, but before anything could happen, her phone buzzed on the desk. The vibration cut through everything. She stepped back fast, pressing a hand to her temple. I need to take this, she said, voice unsteady. I nodded, though my throat was dry. She answered the call, turning slightly away. Yes, I'll be home soon, she said, and that word home hung between us like a reminder. When she ended the call, she looked at me again, eyes soft but guarded. You should go, she said. I will, I said, but neither of us moved. She reached for her bag, but her hand brushed mine on the desk. This time, either of us pulled back. For a moment, the air felt electric, heavy, fragile, alive. Her hand trembled slightly under mine. Then, quietly, she said, This isn't simple, you know. I don't want simple, I whispered. Her gaze lingered on me. 1 second, 2, long enough to say everything words couldn't. Then she stepped past, the door closing softly behind her. The faint scent of her perfume stayed. So did the ache. Variant, standard, title, Part 4, The Breaking Point. ID, 66205. It started with avoidance. She stopped staying late. Stopped meeting my eyes in the hallway. For a week, we talked only through polite messages and carefully neutral smiles, the kind that pretend nothing ever happened. But pretending has limits. On Thursday, she called me into her office. The door clicked shut behind me, and for the first time in days, it was just us. I think it's better if we keep things simpler, she said, hands clasped too tightly in front of her. Is that what you want? I asked. She hesitated. It's what's right. Then why can't you look at me when you say it? That did it. Her composure faltered, just enough for me to see what she was holding back. She turned away, walking to the window. The light was low and gold, tracing the line of her neck, the shape of her shoulders. You don't understand, she said. People would talk. They already do. I'm not. Her voice caught. She stopped herself. You're not what? Not the kind of woman someone your age should fall for. I stepped closer, slow enough that she could stop me if she wanted. She didn't. Maybe you don't get to decide that. Her breath hitched. She turned just slightly, close enough that I could see the faint tremor in her jaw. Don't do this, she whispered. I'm not doing anything. Yes, you are. Her voice broke then, softer, almost pleading. You're making it hard to breathe. Something in me gave way. I reached out, gently tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. My fingers grazed her skin, warm, impossibly soft, and she froze, eyes half closed like she was afraid to move. You don't have to run from this, I said. Her lips parted, and for a second, I thought she might answer. Instead, she whispered, You have no idea what this would cost me. Then tell me, I said, my voice low near her ear. Tell me so I can decide if it's worth it. Her breath brushed against my cheek, uneven, shallow. She turned her head just slightly, so close that the space between us felt like something alive. This is wrong, she murmured. Then stop me. She didn't. Her hand lifted, hesitant, shaking, and rested against my chest. I felt her fingers curl slightly, like she wanted to pull me closer but couldn't give herself permission. The sound of the rain outside came faintly through the window, a rhythm too soft to break the silence between us. I can't, she said, though her hand didn't move. Yes, you can, I whispered. You already are. Her eyes met mine, wide, uncertain, desperate, and for the first time, she didn't look away. I leaned in, slow enough for her to stop it, fast enough that the air thinned between us. Her lips were a breath away when, A sharp knock rattled the door. We both froze. "Ma'am?" a voice called from outside. "You're needed in the conference room." Her hand slipped from my chest. She stepped back, her expression a storm of fear and longing. "Go," she said quietly. But as I reached for the door, she caught my wrist, just for a heartbeat, and whispered, almost against my skin, "This isn't over." Variant, Standard, Title, Part 5, The Truth Between Us. ID, 70582. I thought she'd avoid me after that night, that the knock on the door had saved her from something she couldn't admit. But the next morning, she was waiting at my desk. No greeting. No smile. Just a single sentence. "We need to talk." The words carried weight, quiet, heavy, dangerous. We went to the same small conference room, the one that always seemed to hold our worst and best moments. She closed the door, locked it. Her hands trembled slightly before she folded them together. "You should have told me," she said. I frowned. "Told you what?" She studied me, searching my face. "That people saw us." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean, saw us?" "Last night. When you left my office. Someone saw." Her voice was tight, controlled, but her fingers dug into her palm. "They think something's happening." I hesitated. "Something is happening." "That's not what I mean," she snapped, then immediately softened. "You don't understand what this could do to me." Her voice cracked on that last word. I'd never heard it break before. I stepped closer. "Then tell me the truth. What are you really afraid of, them or me?" She looked away. "Both." Her confession landed between us, raw and real. I could see the exhaustion in her shoulders, the fear she'd been holding like armor. But beneath it, the truth she couldn't hide. The same one that had been keeping me awake for nights. "You think I don't know people talk?" I said. "You think I haven't heard the jokes?" She flinched, just slightly. "You shouldn't have to deal with that because of me. Maybe I don't care what they say." "Well, I do," she said, her voice trembling. "I've built something here. My reputation, my name, I can't lose it because I—" She stopped, biting the sentence in half. "Because you what?" She shook her head, but her eyes gave her away. Guilt, longing, something she couldn't contain. "Because I can't stop thinking about you," she whispered. The silence that followed was deafening. I took a slow breath. "Then stop pretending you can." She exhaled shakily, a sound halfway between a sigh and a sob. "You don't know what you're asking. I'm asking you to be honest. With me. With yourself." She stepped back until she hit the edge of the table, like the truth had pushed her physically. Her hand reached behind her, gripping the edge. Her chest rose and fell too fast. "You don't understand," she said again. "I told myself this was just attention. Curiosity. But when you said my name..." Her eyes met mine, and that was the breaking point. The space between us closed, either of us remembering who moved first. Her hand brushed my arm, then my jaw. Her thumb trembled against my skin. "I don't want this," she said, though her voice betrayed her. "Then why are you shaking?" Her answer came barely above a whisper. "Because I do." We stood there, breathing the same air, our reflections trembling in the glass behind her. Then, from the hallway, a sharp sound. A phone camera click. She froze. I turned toward the door, but whoever had been there was gone. Evelyn's face drained of color. "They'll ruin me," she said quietly. And for the first time, I didn't know if wanting her was an act of love or destruction. But I knew one thing as she looked at me, eyes wide and terrified: she wasn't going to run this time. Variant, Standard, Title, Part 6, The Choice. ID, 90476. The photo changed everything. Rumors spread in whispers that slid through hallways and inboxes. She didn't meet my eyes for 3 days, and when she finally did, the look wasn't anger, it was defeat. By the end of the week, she asked me to meet her after hours. Not at the office. Somewhere no one would recognize us. We ended up at a quiet cafe across town. The lights were low, the windows steamed from the rain. She sat opposite me, her coat still damp, her hair slightly undone. She looked nothing like the woman who ran a room with silence alone. She looked human. Tired. Beautiful in a way that hurt to see. "They're asking questions," she said, fingers circling the rim of her cup. "Someone sent the photo to HR." My chest tightened. "What did you tell them?" "That it was nothing. That you were handing me a file." "And did they believe you?" She met my gaze for the first time that night. "I'm not sure I believe it myself." The air between us thickened again, the familiar kind of quiet we always fell into, where words became useless and every breath seemed louder than it should. "You could let me take the blame," I said. "Say I crossed the line." Her hand stilled. "Don't make it easy for me. I'm trying to protect you." "From what?" she whispered. "From wanting you. Because I already lost that fight." She stood suddenly, pacing, her hand running through her hair. "I've spent my whole life controlling everything, what I say, what I feel, who I'm allowed to love. And then you." She stopped, exhaling sharply. "You ruined the part of me that used to stay quiet." I stood too. "Then stop being quiet." She turned toward me, rain light spilling over her face through the window. Her eyes searched mine, desperate and afraid. "You think this ends well?" she asked. "No," I said. "But I think it's real." That made her laugh, softly, brokenly. "You're too young to confuse pain for real." "Maybe. But tell me to walk away, and I will." She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped closer, so close I could feel the warmth of her breath. My hand lifted on its own, brushing the wet strands of hair from her face. Her lips parted, but no sound came. "This will destroy everything," she murmured. "I know." Her fingers rose, resting against my chest, trembling. "Then why can't I let you go?" "Because you mean it," I whispered. The silence between us cracked like lightning. The cafe faded away, the rain, the risk, the world, until there was only her pulse against my wrist and the space between us collapsing. She leaned in, close enough for her breath to tremble against my lips, then stopped, eyes wide, waiting for a reason not to. None came. And when our foreheads touched, it wasn't victory or surrender. It was understanding. We both knew what came next would change everything, but neither of us stepped back. Write a description with a disclaimer at the top and hashtags to also tell me what I should check and add suitability according to this video.